All right, Shovingers, welcome into another episode of Shovick Sports. I'm Corey.
And I'm co-host Austin.
Very special guest for us here this evening, legendary radio host Tim Miller, Hometown Emporia, KVOE. Tim, how are you doing?
Doing great, gentlemen. How are you?
We're here. And then Justin.
Yep.
Justin, childhood friend of younger Shovick. And obviously you can see in the background, not a very knowledgeable college football fan.
I try the best.
All jokes aside. So we're going to play our little intro and then we'll get going.
West War Room Rivals is sponsored by Emporia State Federal Credit Union. Learn more at esfcu.com. Text or call the number 620-342-2336 to get started today. ESFCU is the Shovick's banking of choice, federally insured by the NCUA.
Hey, I know that.
All right. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever heard of that credit union or not, but it's the Shovick banking of choice.
Very good.
Yeah, I felt like we undersold Justin's intro there. You guys have heard us give him shout outs on many of episodes before. He is a local legend as well. He finished his high school varsity career with 0 career catches. He really reset the record books at our high school. So I wanted to make sure we got that out there. But we have a KU and K-State grad on. Again, we're not really helping build Justin up here. But yeah, I feel like we underdid his intro, so we really had to let everyone know that he kind of reset the record books at our high school with his 0 varsity catches in his career.
I just couldn't live up to the bigger brother.
Yeah, well, it happens sometimes.
Bigger brother making the front page with the fingertips, like it's hard to follow that up.
It is.
So I also want to bring this as like a full circle moment because I can remember 6th grade me. Emporia had KVOE obviously, and then we had that channel. I think it was channel 20 or channel 2. Tim, do you remember?
Oh man, that goes back a little ways.
It does.
Yeah, 6th grade him is like 35 years ago. Like my gosh.
Golly, I want to say it was channel 20, but
either way, I can remember Friday nights turning that on, listening to you call the high school games. And then when I got into my coaching career with the high school baseball and Legion, I would be able to come on your guys' show on Saturday mornings, 7 a.m., early wake-up calls, sometimes not in the best of mood because of how the tournaments were going. But either way, I was able to talk to you guys, and now we are privileged enough to bring you on.
Well,
so the whole full circle moment for us.
It's pretty wild, but I want to congratulate you guys on your podcast and things you're getting accomplished with it. And it's pretty cool to watch, pretty cool to see. So congratulations, and hopefully it continues to grow.
Yeah, I think I'll let you kind of explain kind of the memorable day that we had yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday. Don't know if anybody's ever heard of this fella, but he's a Super Bowl winning Hall of Fame head coach. I mean, he had more teams, but we can really just stop with the Chiefs. Dick Vermeil. He's really the one who got me into the love of football, because I was young, right? And I knew what sports were and kind of played sports, but it got to that age where I can probably pick some favorite players, favorite teams, favorite coaches, whatever. And Dick Vermeil was that guy for me. So be able to put him on a show and just honestly hear about his years and years of experience and knowledge was kind of surreal. There was so much that I just wanted to fanboy about with him, but I wanted to keep it decent so everyone could hear him speak and not me. Because let's be honest here, he has way more wisdom than all of us combined.
Yes.
So no one wants to hear me talk. But yeah, we had him on yesterday on our West War Room show, talking with the guys and giving us his experience, and it was just kind of surreal. And then to be able to follow it up with 1.5 legends like you guys, it's kind of awesome.
So, Tim, we'll start with you real quick.
Okay.
What was the moment, or was it a coach that maybe made you fall in love with sports?
Actually, my love of sports even goes back to my love of radio. So they kind of combined. When I was a kid, back in my day, TV TV was not a huge thing. And don't get me wrong, there were still games on television, but not like it is today. There wasn't ESPN and stuff like that. So growing up as a KU fan, being born in Lawrence, by the way, I'll throw that out there.
Rock chalk, baby.
I was almost born on the KU campus. I mean, I saw it from the time I was a kid. So I was obviously a KU fan. Well, growing up then, I wanted to follow the Jayhawks. So the only way you could really do that on a regular basis was to tune the radio. So you caught football games, basketball games on the radio, and that then accelerated my love of sports. So it kind of combined between love of sport and love of radio. And to this day, I still think that the best coverage of a sporting event, just my opinion, is listening to a really good play-by-play announcer because they're trying to paint the picture for you. Plus, you get all kinds of information in the broadcast because they need to fill it. Whereas TV, obviously, you're just watching it. I mean, granted, there's announcers there, but you're getting to watch it in real time. And so, to me, radio is still the best avenue in terms of a sporting event. And so that's a lot of the reason why I got into the profession. But started about 8 years old, following KU football. They actually had some decent teams back then, a few. And of course, then there was KU basketball. So that was my love of sport. That's where it started.
Yeah, and I can still, I admit there's times where I'll turn the Royals TV announcers kind of down, and I'll put Denny Matthews on.
Well, and we can say living in St. Louis, if we have to watch a game on FanDuel and we have to get stuck with the Cardinals broadcasters, we will absolutely turn them down. I mean this with the utmost respect for the profession, but they're bad. Like, they're so bad.
Well, it's, of course, they're probably still having a hard time replacing who was a legend there in St. Louis, Jack Buck.
Yes.
He was on the air there forever. But what a good radio guy. I mean, you talk about a good play-by-play man. Of course, I grew up with, I have a mentor, Tom Hedrick, who did all kinds of things in the sports broadcasting world. Ultimately, actually taught classes in at KU, which I went through. But, Hedrick, and you mentioned Denny Matthews, a big influence. To me, the best guy going on the radio as far as a sports play-by-play is Kevin Harlan. I don't think he'll beat him at all.
Oh, yeah.
He's fantastic. So
I catch myself listening to Westwood One Sunday Night Football, and then even, he'll do the basketball March Madness games as well. So Kevin Harlan just has that distinct voice. Like, you hear him talk, you know exactly who it is. So
yeah. And I might throw in the fact that, and most people probably know, but he is a KU grad.
Yes, he is.
Just have to make sure.
Just make sure.
So far, we have about 7 KU grads. If we're not keeping score, but
so Justin, we'll go to you now. Like, what moment? Obviously, your guys are a big college football group. We've been around you and your brother enough to know. So, kind of, what moment, or was it a team? What got you into the love of sports?
I will say it's going to contradict most of everything, but I was actually a Cowboys fan growing up. That's what my family from the South, they were Cowboys fans. I know. So my dad is the one that got me mostly in love with sports. So he went to Tarleton State, which is a sub of Texas A&M University. And then that's where he got the love for A&M. And the moment I was born, I was put in maroon. There was no other color that went on me. So I just fell in love with that school, dealt with the hardships, but that you have to ride it out to see the future. I've just been riding a while. Haven't seen much brightness, but we'll see how it goes. And I can say, Tim, I did listen to you every time. Saturday mornings, my dad would take us every 2 weeks to get a haircut, and you'd be on the radio station 7 a.m. right on the morning.
So you guys are all making me feel so old.
No.
And this is the first time we've ever had someone openly admit that they were a Cowboys fan on our show. So please stay with us. Don't leave.
Yeah. He's not really a friend.
Cowboys here Texas A&M.
We'll make sure to edit that part out. Podcast Smitty, what's up, man? We appreciate you joining here tonight. So, Tim, let's get a little bit more into your broadcast journey. Obviously, you've been in for a while with KVOE. So, kind of walk us through, your journey, because obviously you don't do the play-by-play anymore for the Spartans, which again, that was all of our childhood essentially. And then we were even fortunate you calling our games when we were in school. So, walk us through kind of your journey with KVOE and, kind of maybe tell us what you're doing now.
Journey started actually back in 1987, which is a few years ago, right? I came to Emporia, Kansas for one reason. When I graduated from KU, of course, I was looking for a sports play-by-play job, and the Emporia State job was open. So I applied for it. Yeah, Stinger's up, right? And got the job. Actually, a buddy of mine, he and I were hired together. They wanted us to do the games together. So he and I came to Emporia, got to do Emporia State. And coming out of college, that was a big deal to get a college job already.
Mm-hmm.
There was only one problem. The radio station who I went to work for lost the contract the very next year.
Oh, man.
So I only got to do that for 1 year. Now, ironically, the station that picked up the contract is the station I work for today. So I didn't really know what I was going to do after that. Got a call from the general manager at KVOE at the time, Lee Firestone, Steve Souter, who owner, went and talked to them. They want to know if I would come in, and despite the fact that the Emporia State job was going to go to somebody else, would I do Emporia High for them? And so I thought I would, sure, why not? Let's go do this. And funny thing is, my story and Angie's, my wife, typical case of, well, we'll be in Emporia for a year or two, and then we'll move on. Mm-hmm. Well, 38 years later, I think it is now, we're still here. But I made the decision that I enjoyed Emporia. In the sports play-by-play world, you got to be willing to move. I mean, if you're really going to accelerate in the profession, you got to be willing to make some different stops. And I had opportunities to go to Topeka, Wichita, Iowa, Oklahoma, to go do some broadcasting. But I elected to stay here. I mean, we had roots developed. Angie's career was starting to take off, and just made a decision to stay. And I found out that I love small market radio. I didn't have to have a big job to enjoy my profession. And to me, broadcasting high school sports was a pretty pure form of broadcasting. Plus, it's not in the corporate world, which I don't think I could exist very well in the corporate world. That's just not me. Now, don't get me wrong. I would have enjoyed broadcasting a KU game, for example. Having that gig would be pretty good. But I just knew that corporate probably wasn't for me. So here we are now. I stopped doing the Emporia High games about 4 years ago. Became sales manager here in 2009. And it just got to a point where I felt like that I needed to give my all to that. And quite frankly, my radio partner for years, Steve Inwood, he had gotten out of it. So I thought it was a good time for me to get out of it too, and to maybe dedicate more to the sales side of it, which is what pays the bills. So that was my decision. So I got out of it 4 years ago. I still dabble a little bit. I'll go in on Saturdays and still do Saturday morning sports talk. And then if they need me for a game, for example, our Lyon County League basketball tournament that we host here every year, if they need me to go do a game, I'll do a couple of those. And that's where I'm at right now. So.
And I think of all the coaches that you've been able to, meet and build relationships with, because, I mean, obviously not very many people are going to know about Emporia, Kansas, right? I mean,
right.
Yes, we have Clint Boyer, William Allen White.
Twinkies,
there you go.
Do you have a favorite memory of maybe a game you called, whether it was football, basketball? There's been some good teams that have came through Emporia.
Really good teams. And actually, probably 3 games pop into my mind immediately. In 1995, Emporia High played for a state basketball championship, which they had not done since the 1930s. So that was Rick Bloomquist's team. I mean, I think he was into about that would have been about his 7th year. They played Lawrence High for a state championship. They were 6A at that time. And so that game certainly stands out to me. Unfortunately, they lost, but they played for a state title. Another game that stands out to me was in a losing cause, unfortunately. That went, I think it was in 2000, maybe one of the better teams Emporia High had ever had. It was led by a kid by the name of Brett Wise, who ended up playing Division I basketball. Great team. Unfortunately, they ran into a Wichita Southeast team that had a kid go off for 43 that night.
Jeez.
Brett, I think, had 36. It just wasn't enough. Great game. Probably one of the best high school games I've ever watched. And unfortunately, Emporia High lost it, and that was in the sub-state final. So they just missed going to state tournament by one. I contend to this day, if they would have made it, I think they would have won it. Southeast, by the way, went on to win the state tournament that year. And then it was a football game that you guys, I think, probably remember. My son-in-law, Derek Gifford, good friend of yours, I think it was his senior year, and they were playing in McPherson. I believe the final was 63-60.
Is that the one they tackled him at the one?
Tackle him at the 1 yard line to preserve the win. It was a crazy high school football game, but man, what a fun game to call. And so those three stand out immediately to me.
Yeah, I thought you were going to have one of Gift's like 600-yard, 9-touchdown games, but
Well,
not in that much favorites here.
He had a pretty fair career. I mean,
yeah, he did all right. Get the ball and run forward. He did that well.
Exactly. North. Yeah, go north. Go north, young man, or south.
Yeah. No, I remember that McPherson game. That one was a back and forth nail biter to the end. What's up, Maddie?
Yeah, fun game. Fun game.
So, Justin, let's talk a little bit. Obviously, you dabbled in sports, right? I mean, you played football. Is there a favorite moment that you have? Obviously, my brother gave your high school stats at the beginning of the game. I can also sit here and say that I was a bench warrior when I played football in high school as well. Baseball was obviously my better sport. But do you have a moment, memory? It could even be your brother's catch. Everyone remembers your brother's catch.
It ain't going to be his brother's. He's tired of that.
No, I remember your brother's catch.
Of course you do.
Oh, this front page
on that game.
That was awesome.
What's your moment?
I would say it was watching my brother play, and then trying to follow him. It was all right, but just the coach we had was just a running coach, and there's nothing I could do about it. But I will say it's kind of like developing the relationship with the coaches, with Throckmorton, the offensive line coach. When I went and did track, he was completely opposite of what he was in football. I mean, he was the nicest guy, cheered you on the back, just all here for you. But when he was in football, man, he was the meanest guy you ever seen. You did not want to get on his bad side. But I think it was just developing that relationship. And I didn't do the stats. I didn't put up the huge numbers. And I did better in track than I did in football. I actually got medals in that. So I enjoyed developing the relationships. I mean, and in the camaraderie of playing with guys and developing that friendship, those bonds. I mean, you just don't get that from doing sides playing sports.
Yeah, I do remember one game. You did have it'd be illegal now, but you had a nice blindside block that really helped set up. I believe, was it Brady?
Bryce, I think he came around a corner. I was just standing there. I didn't know what to do, so I just turned around and just ran with them. It was kind of like remember the Titans where the guy just runs with them, sunshine, and he turns around and knocks out a guy. That's pretty much what happened.
Yeah.
But first off, in your defense, when Emporia, our high school, when they were at their best, they weren't passing the ball
ever.
No.
It was wishbone option. It was
flex bone.
Yeah, it was all of that. So obviously, the receiver still had a huge part in that, right? I mean, I had guys in my class that we were a senior class. The expectations got a little too high. We underperformed, obviously, and that's no dig at those guys. I mean, it was still a memorable senior year of what we were able to do. We still had districts, and we had a killer district. I mean, we were playing against Manhattan, Junction City, and Wichita Heights. I mean, it is what it is, right? Like you think back on it. So to give you some credit, the type of offense that we had in high school, there's no way that you were going to get anything.
No, it's more of you just had to memorize a lot of stuff. If I always had the forgetful memory of like, I'm going to run in here. I'm dyslexic my left and rights, and I'm going to forget which way it went. And then I'm going to say the wrong thing, and then I'll get my butt chewed. So it was one of those where I was like, I got to make sure I do the play right. And then being a receiver, yeah, it's you didn't get that much, but it was a lot of pressure when he did call a pass play. And like, if you didn't catch it, you were never going to see the field again. So it was one of those where it was a high pressure situation.
Yeah, I mean, and again, small town sports were important in high school. I mean, let's call it what it is. I mean, we had smaller communities around us that had more successful athletics. We get it, but at the same time, I mean, it was still fun to go out on a Friday night when you're younger, watching games, and then getting to the high school and playing. So, I mean, even though I didn't play, there's still plenty of memories I had of the football season, right? I mean, it's just kind of how it goes. So, do you have any other questions about the younger days?
No.
You know, I will say this just real quick about high school athletics, because we get so much into, you know, pros and even college. I would wager to guess, and I may be wrong, but I think if you went to any pro athlete and talked to him, I'd be willing to bet you that some of his best memories and his best times were when he was playing high school sports.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, you got your buddies that you've grown up with, and you're going onto the playing field or the court with them. I bet some of their best memories are during those days, and not necessarily maybe what happened to them in college or pros for that matter. Just one man's opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, that's where the friendships are built, right? Like, I mean, I know almost all the guys that I grew up with. I mean, we were together doing some kind of form of sport since we were in kindergarten and first grade, whether it was t-ball up to flag football, into, you know, intramurals. So, I mean, you build the friendships in high school. That's not to say you're not going to get them in college, because you'll still get
absolutely. Yeah. But it's
not the same. Yeah, it's not the same as
it's your community.
Yes.
You're on the field with everyone that you have grown up with. Now you'll have a couple implants that are, you know, newer, not from the beginning, but for the most part, it's people you've grown up with for that, you know, 15 to 18 years.
Yep.
You're going out there in front of your community, for your community. It's a different feel.
It is.
Even though I never played football, like, you still get it, right? Like, even sitting in the stands, you kind of understand the importance of like the high school football. It felt like, again, this is why I used to love sports kind of before NIL, specifically college, but it always was more than a game. But for now, that hasn't been taken away from high school.
Right. Mm-hmm. Friday Night Lights, right? I mean,
exactly.
Always. So, again, one more before we move on. You've had a chance to see really good coaches. I think of Coach Neinstead, Coach Wells, even Coach Welch, who he gave me my first chance to coach as a college kid. I was on his staff as a student assistant. Do you have a favorite like interview, or just someone that you were like, hey, I get to interview him for the game this week? Was there one guy that kind of stood out, or gal?
You know, I was lucky enough. I had good relationships with every coach I ever worked with. You know, in Emporia, and you can throw Manhattan and Junction City into this as well, the coaches and athletes in Emporia High get more coverage oftentimes than any college does.
Absolutely.
You know, because you've got their games on the air, you're doing a pregame show with them, you're doing a postgame show with them, you get them on Saturday mornings. We do coaches' corners during the week. I mean, they're plastered all over the air. But as far as if I had to say a favorite, only because they were just really good interviews, one of my favorite guys, Bill Sinelli, who was the first guy I worked with. What a tremendous guy, a character, just an interesting man to talk to. So I would say Bill Sinelli, and then Rick Bloomquist, who was a really easy interview because you didn't have to have very many questions, because the guy would really fill some time and talk. And you know, Rick was one of those interesting guys. You talk to some people who love him and some who don't necessarily love him. But I got along with him very well, and I call him a friend to this day. So those are probably two but again, all the coaches I ever worked with, I had great relationships with. Very fortunate.
Yeah. And I was fortunate enough to have both as PE teachers. Essentially, it was not PE class, but it was like a form of athletic class. And the stories that Coach Tonelli was able to rattle off when we were doing the whole walking trail around the high school was a warm up, and the stories that he had were outstanding and phenomenal. And then obviously Coach Bloomquist was probably one of my favorite teachers, just because, I mean, he also had really good stories, but he was also not afraid to hold you accountable with certain things as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know people tend to get away with accountability and what coaches truly are nowadays. I continuously see videos of 12U, 10U coaches getting kicked out of games. And I can honestly say that while my coaches were hard asses, there was no intent like some of these coaches now, right? Like there's a fine line of it. And Coach Bloomquist was honestly, I played basketball my freshman year, but he wasn't the freshman coach, but it was still just being accountable, seeing me in the hallway, making sure I was doing what I was supposed to do. So, I mean, that kind of gave me, kind of a boost, because he wasn't just, I knew it was good intention.
Well, he had expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But no, he was a very interesting guy, to say the least. And quite frankly, really, I mean, did a great job of building the basketball program here. What he did with the youth. I mean, the Spartan Spring League, my gosh.
Yeah, I'm a Spring League legend. If you want to talk about memories in sports and whatnot. So
he still has it over here.
I still have my little okay, look, dude, I made the shot to go into overtime and to win it. So
there you go.
All right.
Great memory.
How many third people can say that?
I was always on the terrible team.
We were too. We were like 4-6, but it was one of those where everyone made the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
But my team was stacked. Just we never had all of the players for the season, but obviously everyone would show up for playoffs, so we never had people missing. But yeah, I mean, legendary. I mean, I didn't have to buy meals around town for, I don't know, to this day.
Well, I just want it to be known, because I coached a few spring leagues, and I did take a team to the 10-year-old championship game. Now we lost.
See, it's a good feeling, right?
But we got there. We did get there. Only lost, I think, 2 games all year.
And you'd be happy to know we beat the Wildcats.
Hey, there you go.
There you go.
That's
nice. That's a
little sour. We were the Orange Men after they beat KU.
The orange.
We were the Orange Men. Yeah,
that hurts. That brings up a bad memory.
Yeah. So, beat the Wildcats, but we were the Orange Men. But yeah, legendary. So I get it.
We have Answer the Call, our West War Room rival co-host Timmy. What's up, rock stars? Thanks for joining tonight, Timmy.
Yeah, we already bragged about Coach Vermeil, so
yeah, we did. So let's transition into some football, NFL football. Tim, at least you're not a Cowboys fan, so you can at least admit that you're a Steelers fan. So
I'm a Steelers fan.
Yeah. So what's your favorite Steelers memory? And I know that there's tons, because this was a proud franchise.
None for a couple decades.
They're still a proud franchise, but hey, they had a run.
Yeah, I'm pretty fortunate. See, I've been a Steeler fan since I was about 8 years old.
Now, were you around when they drafted like 100 Hall of Famers in the same draft?
Well, I actually was, yeah. Which that was a 74 draft.
Yep.
Which goes down to this day as the greatest single draft in the history of the NFL. Because there is no draft to this day that has put 4 Hall of Famers into the hallowed halls. That would have been a Lynn Swann, Jack Lambert, John Stallworth, and Mike Webster. By the way, they actually signed an undrafted guy that same year by the name of Donnie Shell, who is now also in the Hall of Fame.
That's got to count, right? That's got to count.
Got to count. But I mean, so in terms of greatest moments, keep in mind. So I started becoming a fan in 1973. So I've seen every Super Bowl that they've won, all 6 of them. So to pick one moment is tough. I mean, the one I probably remember the most was a win over the Cowboys in the Super Bowl. Great game though. 35-31 was the final. I think it was the 1978 game. So that was a big memory for me because it was a great game and the right team won. So I've seen 74, 75, 78, 79. Trying to think of was it 95? I think was their next one. No, 2005, then 2008.
It's been a while.
It's been we're in a major
drought. Cowboy fans.
We're in a major drought, but those are. How can you separate those 6 games? So probably 78 stands out the best just because of what a great game it was. Unfortunately, now we've kind of fallen on some hard times in terms of what they used to be, but. It's all cyclical. Hopefully they'll get it back eventually if they can figure out how to man the quarterback position. So
there we go.
Right
into the next topic.
That goes right into. So obviously, you guys have been spoiled just in the sense of 3 head coaches. I've only seen 2 of them, and obviously, it's getting a little warmer per se for Tomlin, right?
Yes.
He's still a great coach. I don't know what he does. He still hasn't had a losing season, but I think at some point, Steeler fans don't care about the whole losing season thing.
No,
the playoff week to come.
Bottom line is, hey, obviously, great coach. He'll be a Hall of Fame coach.
Mm-hmm.
As you mentioned, he has never had a losing season in the NFL, and when you consider the fact that he's been the coach there since 2007, that's pretty incredible. But bottom line is, guys, you got to win in the postseason. That's particularly in Pittsburgh country. And they have not won a playoff game since 2016. Now, that's a long stretch for that organization to not even win a playoff game. So, I think that why he certainly probably has some grace to be the head football coach there for a while. At some point, you got to start evaluating whether his messages continue to get through. Are they making right decisions? And not just him. You got also certainly it lands in the front office too, but that they need to win a playoff game and they need to do it quickly because I think the fans are getting a little restless in Steel Nation. So we'll see what happens this year.
Yeah, at least you're not a Chargers fan. You have that going for you,
which is nice.
Yeah, at least you have that going for you. But,
exactly. So,
but yeah. No, I kind of want, before we kind of get your feels on your new and unused quarterback, I want to get your feelings on 2 other quarterbacks before we get to him.
Okay.
Were you a fan of Justin Fields, and would you have hoped to keep him?
I was, if I'm going to be honest, when they were making the decision, do they stick with Russell Wilson? Do they stick with Justin Fields or what, whatever the case may be? I've lost you guys here for some reason. See if I can get you back.
We're storming here, so it might be us.
I still see you.
You still see me? I don't see you guys at all.
I see everybody.
Okay, well, I'll keep talking. So if I'm honest, I would probably have wanted to keep Justin Fields just to see what he has. The guy's electric. He's a great athlete. Doesn't necessarily equate into a great NFL quarterback. But I would have liked to at least given him a shot. Obviously we have arguably one of the greats ever to play the game, but guess what? He's also going to be 42 years old. So his prime is long gone. And that's been
like Justin Fields was winning games for you.
Yeah, and I wish they would have stuck with him. I mean, I don't know, but they Mike Tomlin. Again, he was hell bent on getting Russell Wilson on the field, and that was going to be his guy.
And then the second one is more of just like a little joke we've had going on through the draft process and through now. But how do you feel about Will Howard being your quarterback for the future?
No disrespect to Will Howard, who just became a national champion and had a really nice college career. I just hope Will Howard does a lot of carrying the clipboard.
That's fair. That's what I expected. But we had a nice little joke going on through like leading up to the draft and after the draft. A lot of Will Howard fun. So we had a Steelers fan on here now, so I wanted to get some Steelers fan vibes on Will Howard.
And obviously, if you had a crystal ball and you could see the fact that if you put him in, he was going to be your next franchise quarterback because he's next, somewhat like Tom Brady, a late draft pick that becomes a great player. Unfortunately, I just don't see that happening. So, like I say, I think he'll be a really good guy to hand the clipboard to. So
Justin, you're obviously a K-State grad. You and your wife go to pretty much every home game, essentially. What do you want to share about one Will Howard?
With Will Howard, you don't know which Will Howard you're going to get. So when we were going back, he was, I think, his sophomore year. He's at K-State. Came in, was just excellent. Just couldn't miss, hit everything, was just dynamite, and was a star quarterback. And then the year after that, it was just the complete opposite. And then you just didn't know what kind of Will Howard you're going to get. Either you're going to get the Will Howard that turns it over, makes miscues, doesn't read the defense, overthrows passes, or just runs around and then falls down. So so when he goes to the pros, and then we went to Ohio State, it was, I think his playing style got excelled because of what was around him. I think that elevated his draft stock and his persona is because of what was around him. You keep him back at K-State, he's going undrafted. He's not getting picked up by the Steelers. He's not making the pros, I don't think. But since he went to Ohio State, got the national attention, had the throws, had the national TV time. Because a lot of K-State games, we're not on the big time TV games. So you go to Ohio State, everybody's going to be on the scene. You can see him. So I mean, he's one of those where you don't know what you're going to get. He could blossom, or he could just stay behind the clipboard. And I would hope he just stays behind the clipboard.
Well, and I think a lot of it is system, right?
Sure.
I mean, we've talked about it multiple times when we were doing kind of college shows about. It's not a knock on K-State's receivers. They have some good athletes in Manhattan. It is what it is. These aren't the big-time 5-star receivers that Ohio State's just molding and just pushing out every single season. There's no Smith at K-State. There's no Muka at K-State. They have good receivers, but they're not at that level. So, again, it's not a knock on what K-State had. It's just he basically worked with what he had.
Yeah.
It's just that Ohio State, you also had 2 outstanding running backs.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And K-State usually does have good running backs, but not at that caliber.
And a franchise left tackle, go Chiefs.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and this is where you do have to give some credit to Kansas State.
Nope.
Well, you take it back to Bill Snyder. He made a living off of taking guys that, quite frankly, probably didn't get much attention at all coming out of high school, and he turns the program around. And I think you can certainly make the case the greatest turnaround in college athletics when you look at where that program was at, because it was my understanding that if Bill Snyder doesn't get it done, K-State may not be playing football today, or they would have had a hiatus because they were seriously considering shutting down that program with where they were at. And Snyder came in, and of course, we all know what happened. He turned it into a great football program. Kudos to him. I mean, you got to give the guys props. I mean, heck of a college football coach, and it was just incredible. And now, hopefully, Kansas with a guy like Lance Leipold, who's kind of on a similar trajectory. Certainly not comparing the two yet. He has a long way to go, and I don't know if he'll get there because he's 61 years old now, but kind of on a similar path in terms of how they're building the program. But anyway,
yeah. Now we can get to the holy grail of Aaron Rodgers. Is he the missing piece? Is he what gets you over the hump?
Wheelchair?
Yeah, exactly. You bring in, so you go from Russell and Pickens to Rodgers and DK. You go from Minka and some corners, and you bring in like Slay and Ramsey. You may or may not have TJ Watt. Who knows what that's going on? But is Rodgers that guy?
Here's what I'll say. If it's Aaron Rodgers, the last 10 games of last year, they got a shot.
Yep.
If it's the Aaron Rodgers we saw early, they don't have a shot. I mean, you look at his last 10 games, guys, even at the age of 40, 18 TDs, 4 interceptions, and had a quarterback rating of 97. Pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. People, especially now, they love to hate Rodgers, but they don't realize how good he actually played for most of last year. Like you just said, the final 10 games, I mean, he still had stuff in the tank for the Jets.
Here's the question for Pittsburgh. Can they keep him upright and healthy? Because this is an offensive line that has a lot of question marks.
Mm-hmm.
There's some talent there, but I don't know if they're good enough. I mean, they got a really good center, Zach Frazier out of West Virginia, who's really good and will be the anchor of that line hopefully for a while. You've now switched Broderick Jones from right tackle to left tackle, which is more of a natural position for him. We'll see what he does. The kid from Washington, help me with his name, guys, even though he's a Steeler, I should know. First kid last year who got hurt. Troy.
Isn't it like Fatuan?
Yeah, something like that.
I know what you're saying, but I can't say the name.
I can't say the name either. He's now the right tackle, unproven because he was hurt all year last year. But the offensive line has to perform. I think that you can say that obviously about any team. If you get poor offensive line play, you're not going to be very good. If you get solid play up front in the trenches, you have a chance.
Do you think him and Arthur Smith will be cohesive?
Well, you got two different philosophies. Rodgers has never played in a system where it's been run first, right?
Yep.
Now, Arthur Smith, saw him make the comment the other day, well, you have to adjust to the talent you have. Well, we'll see.
He's not wrong. Aaron Rodgers says a lot of things that you can kind of, scratch your head on. He's completely right on that.
Now, even at the age of 41, soon to be 42, do I think he could probably be better at least 1 year than Russell Wilson would have been, or maybe even Justin Fields? I think that's a pretty good bet.
Yep.
But still, it's a crapshoot. They've had a wild off season. This is not a typical Pittsburgh Steeler off season. Growing up as a kid, watching them all these years, they built through the draft exclusively. They were not much of a player in free agency or in trading. And my gosh, look at what they've done in the offseason. It's been nuts.
Most active team.
Yeah. Between Aaron Rodgers, they go out and trade for DK Metcalf. They bring in Jalen Ramsey. Unfortunately, you have to trade Minkah Fitzpatrick to get him, although Minkah hasn't been very good the last couple of years in terms of making splash plays. Darius Slay is now there. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, but the elephant in the room is TJ Watt. Are they going to sign him or not?
So
if they don't sign him, that defense has a whole different look, obviously.
And that's what I want to he's obviously between him, and then there's Myles Garrett, and then all these other guys who are true game changers. We have one in the West with Max Crosby, right? Mm-hmm. We talk every time the Chiefs or Broncos get ready to play the Raiders last season was don't let Max Crosby set a tone and be that guy that can change.
Don't let him beat you or keep him. He's one player.
I was fortunate enough to see the 2015 Broncos. That defense won that championship. Obviously, Peyton Manning he ran out of gas. It is what it is. But Von Miller was that game changer. Yep. How big of a loss could this potentially be with TJ Watt? Do you still think they stay top 10, or is it a huge, massive drop?
Well, they rely on their defense to win them football games. They just want the offense to just don't screw it up, right? Yeah. Don't lose the game for us. And the defense needs to go out and win the game. Without TJ Watt, totally different team. If he's not signed, I don't give Pittsburgh much of a chance over the course of the season. He's that good. I mean, you're talking about guys that can wreck the game.
So do you think, let's say, a touchdown difference. So let's say your defense gives up 6 more points a game, but your offense is getting 7 to 8 more points a game. Do you still think it's a bigger drop-off? Because essentially you're thinking with adding Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, Jonnu Smith, and those guys, you're not going to average 12 points a game like you have. It's borderline bad.
Here's what I'll say. If someone can guarantee me that the offensive line will be cohesive and be really good at their job, then, yeah, I think they can make up for it. If they don't have a TJ Watt, which still goes against every fiber of my being to think he wouldn't be in a Steeler uniform. But guarantee me good offensive line play, and I'll say Pittsburgh has a chance to at least be competitive and maybe be right there, at least to win a playoff game, which is our next step, is to actually go to the postseason and win a game. But I think that's the key for Pittsburgh. I really do. I think the offensive line is very key to how good they're going to be.
Yeah, I mean, if you can guarantee me cohesive offensive line play, Chiefs are three-peating right now. So,
well, I mean,
I feel you on that. It is.
I mean, it's true. I mean, what coach? And you had a really good one on obviously yesterday. Where does he think football's won?
Trenches.
In the trenches.
In the trenches.
Yep.
And I'm going to take his word for it because, as you mentioned earlier, he's forgotten more football than we'll ever know as a combined group.
Yeah, and I'll agree that, or at least want to say this just because I got to get a jab in at some point. Steelers defense without TJ Watt is still better than the Bengals defense.
Well,
point, yes.
If they have other guys step up, I mean, Alex Highsmith is good. The Herbig kid is good. Becton, the kid up front, is good. They got a really good draft pick. I think Derek Harmon has a chance to be really good. The D tackle out of Oregon.
Real good.
Cam Hayward is, of course, he's a miracle. He's 36 years old and still doing what he's doing.
Legend.
Yeah, him and Calais Campbell makes no sense, but they're still top of their game.
And I still think Jalen Ramsey has some game.
Yeah, I do too.
Now, is he the same Jalen Ramsey? No, he's 30, soon to be 31. But I tell you what, you put him in key opportunities, particularly a slot corner.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe play him a little at safety too. Joey Porter Jr. is still a guy developing.
Well, and how about you surround Porter with Slay and Ramsey?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that alone kind of overlooked, right?
And I tell you, guy, and we lost Minka, I know, as far as a safety, and Chiefs fans may laugh at me a little bit. I tell you what, Thornhill may be real key for them.
You guys got Thornhill now?
Juan Thornhill is in the team.
That's a sneaky pick. No, I like Juan Thornhill.
Yeah.
I like him.
So he's going to be part of the safety group.
Okay.
You
guys don't need TJ. See?
Yeah, no, you'd be good.
I'd still like to see 90 suiting up every.
Well, yeah.
Anyway, we'll see what happens. No, it's been a crazy offseason. Of course, you trade George Pickens and get DK.
I think that was necessary, though.
Yeah.
He had worn out his welcome.
Look, he's a perfect powder keg to just let him go blow up on the Cowboys.
Yep.
That's where he needs to be.
I will say this: if somehow you can corral him,
yes,
and let him concentrate on football, there's no question as you watch him play what kind of ability he has.
Yeah, there's no questions about his ability.
And
but
you
that
put
is
him with CeeDee Lamb, and wow,
that's a powder keg. We're waiting to explode.
Yep. Yeah, he is. And Pittsburgh had had enough.
Well, no, I guess DK's he's not
a little
quite different, but how about DK and Ramsey being on the same team?
He's a proven commodity. Yeah. Yeah. Crazy, huh?
Justin, tell me the biggest first round bust and why Shamar Stewart is.
Man, that hurts.
I could have told you that when he came out of college. I mean, I don't know if you pulled up his film. He only had 4 sacks on his 4 years of being in college. He was a starter from his freshman year. So
for everyone who maybe look at that and say bust, the dude is electric. He gets good pressure. You can put on the film and see that he can get pressure up the middle. Go ahead and tell the good people who freak out about the sack numbers why he could possibly, if he ever gets his contract figured out, why he could be helpful for the Bengals.
So for me, for what I noticed the most is in college, he played at almost 290 pounds, like 270 pounds, or 290. When he went to the combine, he dropped like 40 pounds. So kind of wondering why he played heavier at A&M. I don't know if it's the coaches made him play heavy, But when he cut that weight, he put up numbers at the combine that matched the freakish athlete of Myles Garrett. So if you can figure out how to weigh, he can figure out his tools and actually get the pressure and get to the quarterbacks. I mean, he's a freak of an athlete with what he can do and how fast he is and how good of a turn he can make around the left tackles. And it was more of a Sorton had more of the pressure. He was kind of there, but Sorton was kind of the main focus at A&M when they were together. But I don't know. It's going to be one of those where the coaching comes into play and his kind of persona, if it takes a back seat and just he becomes real and just says, play football.
Favorite A&M player, Von Miller or Myles Garrett?
Von Miller.
Smart.
Hands down. Hands down.
That's a terrible. Myles Garrett is 10 times the player Von Miller will ever be. Is it between those two, or does Mike Evans creep up there for actual favorite?
Well, that was just
time?
That was just defensive players. But do you have a favorite A&M player that's active or inactive now?
Johnny Football, baby.
No, not Johnny Football. No, it was great to watch Johnny Football. It was great for the A&M program. If we didn't have Johnny, we wouldn't have had a $750 million stadium redo. So, I mean, he brought tons of money into the program. But I will say my favorite still to this day is Von Miller. Has not changed, and it's Von Miller and then followed by Mike Evans. Those are my favorite two.
Tim, because Von Miller is still technically in the Big 12 when he was at A&M. Do you remember anything about Von Miller? Like, did he ever stand out to you? Like,
he wasn't that good.
Like, was he in your mind at that time like, hey, this is the next maybe great pass rusher?
No. But obviously, when he got to the pros, certainly that changed greatly.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know whether it was the system or if a light just turned on, but I think if you watched him in college, you knew he was good. I mean, you certainly could see the athleticism and whatnot, but did anyone think he'd be this good of a pro? Mm-hmm. I don't think so. But the talent was there, but it was just a matter of the numbers. I don't think really were.
Yeah, A&M seems to have a trend going here.
Yeah, but
did Garrett have good college stats?
But you sure can't. You can't argue the end result. No question.
Yeah, and Von Miller was a huge reason why Myles Garrett went to A&M.
Yeah,
I mean, I remember Myles Garrett going there and they were calling him Baby Von.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and then realized he was way better.
I mean, he is. I mean,
now Myles Garrett stood out in college too.
Well, he has the single.
Don't let that change your mind, Justin.
No, it's not.
Von Miller's favorite, but Myles Garrett is significantly better.
I will agree with that. But Von Miller is the one that I watched when I was in high school, from the 2009, the 2010, the years when it was still in the Big 12, and it was A&M versus Nebraska, the largest crowd in A&M history. And they made fourth down stops. I mean, it was watching him dominate a game and just change it. It was I just fell in love. And I will never not be a Von Miller fan. It's in my email address.
That's dedication right there.
Yeah, talk about another program that kind of fell off the map when they left the Big 12. I mean, obviously A&M did, and then Nebraska, man.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So
They got baby Patty Mahomes though.
Let's transition over into some college football here the last few minutes. I mean, I guess you can call him that. He's like a fat.
I don't know. Patty's put on some baby weight,
but
he changed his hairstyle though.
He did.
Don't get me wrong. He's still 100 times the athlete I will ever be.
Yeah.
So Tim, let's talk about the underperforming KU team from last year. Obviously, there was a lot of hype going into last season. I think once AK left and went to Penn State, I think for me that kind of took some of the air out, because everything I was reading about Jeff Grimes was why? Like, there's no way he fits in here. So let's fast forward to Grimes is gone. Quarterback coach Dabrowski takes over, which I'm stoked. I'm super excited about that, because the one game he actually got to call was the bowl game against Arkansas. JD6 has a career high, sets the record, I think, or close to the record for most passing yards that game. am I wrong to have a little bit more expectation this year, or should we kind of like
Natty baby?
Should we kind of level?
See, you may be asking the wrong guy because I was so let down last year.
No, we had the best 5-7 team that's ever played.
I was the biggest Jayhawk fan last year.
But it hurt my soul the way the season went last year because I had set myself up for what I thought was a team that could, and I didn't predict it, but could contend for a Big 12 championship based on what they had coming back. And boy, once you start off 1-5, that kind of takes the air right out of the sail.
I don't think necessarily 1-5. It was how they got to 1-5.
How they got there. And as you mentioned, Jeff Grimes, it was never a fit in terms of the offense they had and him calling plays.
Well, so many blown leads.
Yeah. I mean, Jalen Daniels was put in really bad spots a lot of the time, I thought. Now, did he make some bad throws? He sure did. Yes. Did he make some bad reads? Yes, he did. But I also thought they really didn't do a great job of setting him up for success. Now, as the season went along, obviously he got better, which I don't think it should be a surprise to anyone. The guy's got talent. But this year, moving forward, a lot of things have to go right. But you had to say that with any team. I mean, they had to fill holes with transfers, but these days, who doesn't?
Yep.
So they have to hope that the transfer portal is good to them. They certainly have to hope that Daniel stays healthy. I like a lot of their pieces. I think the wide receivers will be better than people think that they're going to be. Graduation, of course, hit them hard, but I like the group. The offensive line, they have a few question marks there. They have to get figured out. Running back wise, you don't lose a Devin Neal and say they're going to be the same. I mean, the guy's one of the greatest backs to ever play at Kansas. But I like a couple of their pieces. I mean, Highshaw, good to get him back. LaShawn Williams, the transfer from Iowa, I think has a chance to.
Big fan of him. I'm excited for him.
Yeah, I think he has a real chance to contribute. Tight ends are very key to their offense, and so you got to wonder, who's going to step up. I know Deshaun Haneke is a guy they're counting on. The bad thing for them was they got this kid, I think Keon Burnett, I think his name was. He was from Arizona.
Yep.
He transferred in, and they were figuring him and Haneke were 1A and 1B, and they were pretty excited about the tight ends. Lo and behold, transferred back to Arizona. So they lose him. So they better hope that guys like Leighton Cure and Carson Brune are good because, again, tight ends are very key to their offense.
I'm actually more excited for the defense this year.
D-line's going to be, I think, really good.
I think we're going to have a pretty good pass rush.
D-line can be really good.
Yeah, I think we got a couple decent transfer corners to where if they come in and perform, we'll be all right. Got a couple coming back.
Key's going to be the linebackers.
Yeah.
It's going to be a whole new crew, basically. Now, they got some good transfer. I think the Lathan kid we all know from West Virginia, if we watch Big 12
football. That's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, I'm excited for the was it Bang Bang Kamara?
Oh, Kamara. Is he the South Carolina kid?
South Carolina, yeah. So, I mean, on paper, if these players perform how they should, I think our defense actually takes a step or two forward.
You look at D tackle, they got Dunn and Withers, who are back from last year, Dean Miller on the defensive end, and they got the kid Justice Finkley from Texas.
Yeah, I'm excited about.
And again, you mentioned the secondary. If they can get those pieces together, they lose Dotson and Bryant, but they certainly have some pieces. A Graham, a transfer, Rawls, transfer safety from Oklahoma State. There are pieces, but how will it mesh?
Exactly.
It's
the same thing with Melo and Kobe. Like you can't say you lose a Devin Neal and you're not going to. You can't say we lose Melo, Dotson, and Kobe Bryant and we're not going to take a step back at corner.
Sure.
Like those are two All-American, All-Conference corners together forever. So the corners might take a step back.
Mm-hmm.
I think the pieces around them, like you said, if they mesh, and the Big 12 is not the hardest to be a good defense, if we're being honest, right?
No,
it's not the SEC. It's not the Big 10.
No.
So I'm not saying they're going to have a Georgia-like defense, but I think they're going to have a good enough defense for the Big 12.
Well, and their defense last year was good enough, but they wore out.
Yep.
I mean, at the end of the season, they were done. They were toast.
Yeah.
But they played well early.
Hey, how about our kicker, though?
Kickers
kicker now. We're not used to having.
I
Now, it
know,
doesn't mean we can block for him and not get him like.
because anything over 40 yards at one point was a real adventure.
Questionable.
Getting like 35 and in, we were like, "Is this it? Is this actually automatic?"
So that's hopefully that'll turn around. We'll have a little bit of a kicking game. But you mentioned Zabrowski, the quarterback coach, is now the offensive coordinator. Also, don't underestimate the fact they did bring Matt Lubick back.
Yes, absolutely.
And he's back and would be more of a co-offensive coordinator. So I think those two guys in tandem, you kind of like, at least, in terms of calling plays, you like where that offense will return to. So
give me the ceiling for KU win-wise.
13, 16?
Realistically.
12.
Realistically, I think the ceiling would probably be 9.
That's the number I had in my head.
That's what I was going to say.
Is that good enough to get them Big 12 or maybe top 2? Or
I think if they go 9-3, which would mean, and if I'm looking to schedule right, that would put them, I think, with 2 losses in the Big 12. I would think they'd be probably in the top 2, because here's if they're going to go win 9 games, I certainly think, of course, you got to protect your home field. So I'm counting on them winning every game at home. So where do I think the losses may come? Unfortunately, it could come in Columbia against Missouri. Let's face facts. The program there is certainly steps ahead of where Kansas is at right now.
Not true.
So
and the kicker can make a 61-yard field goal right at the end, too. So you never know.
There could be a loss in Columbia. There could be a loss in Ames against Iowa State. And there could be a loss in Lubbock against Texas Tech.
Yep.
Outside of that, I think they have a chance. Now, will they beat K? Of course, the big thing, can they beat K-State finally? They've got to get over that hump. And they have in Lawrence, so no excuses. And quite frankly, I will contend they probably should have beat them a couple of seasons ago.
Yes.
Or last year.
Or last year had them dead to rights 2 years in a row and couldn't finish the deal.
Yep.
So I think their ceiling is probably about 9-3. What their floor is, who knows? Depends. I mean, Jalen Daniels goes down.
You're looking at a 3-win season max at that point.
Yeah.
Maybe 3-9, 4-8 at best.
I do have Texas Tech winning the Big 12 this year, just based on what they were able to do in the transfer portal. And I like their coach. He's getting them back to relevancy rather quickly.
Right.
I think for me, Arizona State's kind of in the mix. I don't know if they were kind of a one-year kind of wonder. Kenny Dillingham's a really good coach as well, and he was able to – I mean, they were picked to finish last year, right?
Yeah.
And what he was able to do with that program, you have the most important position back, it's your quarterback, really good quarterback, could be a dark horse Heisman guy. So I think still mixed on them. And then I think K-State comes into play as far as, is this finally the time Avery Johnson takes that next step? Talented, really talented. And they're still getting the in-state kids, the big profile in-state kids. And obviously Cure being one of them. I think that's going to be a good addition to K-State. Now it's the defense, right? Like they did lose quite a bit on their defense as well. It's a little different now. But Chris Kleiman, I think, he's not on Bill Snyder's level. He won't ever be there. But I think he's earned the trust to build what he's able to do. Justin, does K-State get to the Big 12 championship game this year?
No. I think
that was a quick no.
Well, from watching Avery last year, and if he can overcome his questionable sometimes game managing skills of when he makes decisions to throw it, and he usually throws a pick. Like BYU game, I understand BYU playing at night there is unheard of, but for how he came out and played that game was just –
you beat him.
Yeah, I know. I know. So it's just one of those things. Can he take the next step? Can he understand defenses better? Can he make correct throws? And will the offensive coordinator let him run? I've just felt like the past year he's been held back and they've told him not to run, like throw the ball, somehow get rid of the ball and not just take off and run. So that's if they come out and they establish a run game and he takes off and and that cure is a big, huge increase in the pass catching abilities, I will say they can get a chance to make the Big 12 championship game. But it's questionable on what Avery Johnson and the OC handle and look like this year.
Well, here's what I know. If Bill Snyder were Avery Johnson's football coach, there would be a lot of ice baths after games because that kid would run all night long.
That's what I'm saying. And why he doesn't take off and run, it just baffles me for how much speed this dude has and elusiveness. When he came in when Howard was still here and just took over games with his running ability, it's just like, what happened? Like, what coach told you stop running?
Yeah. And here's what I'll say for KU. The one thing about it, they're in a conference that is there for the taking.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to dominate the Big 12? Because it's wide open
every year.
It's this isn't the SEC or the Big 10. It's there for the taking. It's just a matter of putting the right pieces together. So they have an opportunity.
And we thought last year it was going to be Oklahoma State with Gundy.
Yep.
That was rough.
He continuously goes with older quarterbacks for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm pulling for him because I love Gundy. He's obviously been there for a long time. And obviously I don't want to see anyone get fired, especially a guy who played there and then obviously what he's been able to do at Oklahoma State. So I'd like to see a good bounce back from Oklahoma State this year, but I think it's going to be a little tough with what he was able to maybe not get, I guess.
Well, and then another positive for Kansas for next season, I tell you what, great recruiting class.
Class is looking good.
You know, Justin, you mentioned in-state recruiting. Kansas actually has capitalized on really good in-state recruiting this year. Matter of fact, plucked a really good kid out of Manhattan this year, the defensive back.
There's still a possibility he turns into a 5-star.
Yeah, I mean, it's
really?
Right now they're a top 30 class. They've done really good on the recruiting trail, and hopefully that can continue. Because, like I said, I think there's real ample opportunity there to put yourself in a position to win a lot of football games and contend for titles. If Leipold can keep developing, and if Lance Leipold stays there, which you would think at the age of 61, he's probably going to be there to end his career. You would think.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to leave. I think he's here now. So
I think he's very happy with the situation.
Yeah.
I will say this too. It's been a few weeks ago. We were in Lawrence, drove up to the stadium, and wow, that's going to be really nice. They still have the east side they're going to have to work on after this season's over. But wow, what a facility that's going to be! And hey, kids love the bells and whistles.
Yep.
So I think they're going to have a lot to sell once that thing's completely, completely done.
Yeah. Last one, Tim. Devin Neal or Jake Sharp?
Devin Neal.
Yeah. I was just thinking back to like another good Kansas running back that we've had. And I think Brandon McAnderson, Jake Sharp, obviously that year, and then now Devin Neal.
I mean, that guy. I mean, how could you not be a fan of his?
Maybe a tougher one. Mello, Dotson, and Kobe.
No, it's
or
not
Talib or Chris.
Yeah, it's Chris Harris. Keep Talib.
Yeah, definitely easy on that one. That's easy.
That's easy. That's two of my favorite all-time players. Yeah.
I think we're blinded by that team was better than the teams Mello and Kobe have been on.
Granted, going 12-1 and winning a BCS bowl against Virginia Tech does help.
Yeah.
So that helps blind it a little bit.
Yeah.
We got to think of what Kobe and Mello, the teams that they were on.
Sure.
Now I'm still taking Talib and Harris all day, every day.
There you go.
So,
well, gentlemen,
hopefully be a fun year. We'll see. It all kicks off August 23rd. So
I think I love that. Yeah, K-State, Iowa State to start the morning.
Yep.
It goes right into
let's go Cyclones.
KU Fresno.
KU Fresno.
Big Ireland game for K-State. So hopefully they don't make Kansas look stupid overseas.
Well, I'm not going.
You're not going to Ireland? Come on.
No, I don't want to go on. But Iowa State always beats K-State. It's just there's just no guarantee that
Rocco Beck is a sneaky player of the year candidate. Let's not sleep on him.
No.
That's not a name that I think is getting brought up enough.
Taking Farmageddon over to the potato fields.
Yep, Farmageddon.
So, well, gentlemen, this has been a fun hour.
It's been great.
Fantastic being able to talk to you guys. I know we could go for another 5 hours, but we know you guys have wives and families, and you don't want to upset
college games to play.
Games to play. That's right. So I'll give you guys the floor. Is there anything you guys want to end on? Tim, we'll start with you.
I'll just kind of end it how I started. I just want to congratulate you guys on the podcast, and hopefully it continues to grow for you and continues to get bigger and bigger. And you're able to continue to get really good guests in, and then everything takes off for you. Congratulations and best of luck with with what you're doing.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. I know we go from Dick Vermeil to Tim Miller and Justin. I don't really. That's 2 days in a row. I don't know where we go after this.
Justin, give us your final thoughts, buddy.
I just want to say it's been a pleasure. I've really, first time I've ever done a podcast, and just really glad I got to do it with you guys, and I'm happy for you guys, and I'll see you guys on Friday.
Oh yeah,
they're getting our golf rounds in.
I'm not going to drive 300 yards again. I'm sorry, I used that up last weekend.
You did,
but no, guys. Again, from where we started a year and a half ago, and I tell everybody this: when we first started, we sounded like doo doo, like it wasn't good. We had guests on, and it didn't flow well. And I feel like now we finally got a hang of how this kind of goes. And that's a testament to you guys for being guests who make it easy for us. It's like, yeah, it was easy to game plan for you guys. But not everything flows. But tonight it did. And Justin, I know it's your first time doing a podcast. Tim, I think this is your first time doing.
First podcast, yes.
But you obviously have experience behind the scenes.
Well, I'm fairly comfortable behind the microphone.
Yes, sir. The only difference is we put a camera in front of you now. So
this is why I truly have a face for radio.
That's kind of how we started off with no camera, and then we're like, well, we think people want to see us a little more.
Yeah, everyone's like, if you really want to do well, you gotta get a camera, and I'm like, we're not made for this.
Yeah, clean up the face, Yeah. Add the back photos.
Yeah.
So again, a year and a half makes a huge difference. So
sure does.
Again, Tim, thank you. Again, it was, like I said, beginning, growing up, listening to you on the radio and being able to be interviewed by you on Sports Talk, and to now have you on our show. I mean, it's kind of a surreal moment for us.
Yeah, we're captains now.
Yeah. Full circle, right?
Full circle. So for everyone who tuned in tonight, thank you for the comments and the views. We will be back tomorrow with the War Room guys. We have Des from Broncos for Dummies joining us. She has a huge following, mostly football fans.
Great content, though.
Great content.
Incredible.
So we encourage you guys to tune in. Don't forget to go subscribe to the YouTube channel, Shovick Sports, as well as the West War Room Rivals. We have a huge jam-packed couple of weeks coming up for everybody. I don't know how often we're going to be able to do our show because we're getting ready for what we have coming up on the War Room. We have Des from Broncos for Dummies tomorrow. Next week, we have Jesse Newell from the Kansas City Star joining us, and former Chiefs running back Derek Blaylock will also be joining us next Thursday. And then we have more coming after that. So, again, we have a huge couple weeks coming up, and we thank everybody who's tuned in, and we will see you guys tomorrow.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.